It was 3:44 a.m. on a Tuesday night in November, when the algorithm learned who you were. Not from what you told it, from what you forgot you had told the internet. In a data center somewhere in the American Southwest, millions of photographs were being sorted. Your photos. Your family's photos. Pictures taken on phones you owned, uploaded to platforms you thought you controlled, all being fed into a machine learning system that was learning to see the world the way you saw it. Except you never agreed to teach it. You never even knew it was watching. By morning, the system knew your face. It knew your voice patterns transcribed from old videos.
Stipuridium tenster and tiernations.
It knew your location history from photos tagged with metadata you didn't realize was there. It knew things about you that you yourself had forgotten. This wasn't science fiction. This wasn't a speculative scenario whispered about in tech policy.
This was happening. It had been happening for years.
If someone else owns the data that makes up who you are, do you own yourself? But here's the uncomfortable part. This isn't just a story about technology companies. It's about all of us. How much of your digital life do you actually control? The story of how we got here begins not with artificial intelligence, but with abundance. In the early 2000s, the internet was finally becoming useful. People uploaded photos to Flickr. They shared status updates on Facebook. They posted videos to YouTube. They tweeted their thoughts into the void. For the first time in human history, the entire landscape of human expression, billions of people documenting their lives, existed in digital form. Tech companies saw this not as a gift from humanity, but as raw material. By the early 2010s, the extraction had begun in earnest. There were terms of service agreements, hundreds of pages long, written in language designed to obscure rather than clarify. Most people never read them. Most people didn't understand what they were agreeing to. The companies knew this. That was the point. Then artificial intelligence changed everything. When large language models and image generation systems became viable in the late 2010s and early 2020s, the demand for training data exploded. Social media platforms suddenly became some of the most valuable training datasets on Earth. The extraction accelerated. They automated the process. They built systems specifically designed to download, parse, and ingest the entire human digital record at machine speed. And they did it without asking. In 2023, something broke the silence. A researcher working for a large technology company, someone with direct access to the training processes, began speaking to privacy advocates and journalists about what was actually happening inside the data pipelines. What they described was the systematic conversion of private human experience into corporate property. They described systems that had been trained on billions of photographs sourced from social platforms. They described political beliefs, sexual orientation, religious affiliation. The companies doing this scraping knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew it was ethically and possibly legally questionable.
The legal system was not prepared for this.
The laws protecting personal privacy in America had been written for a different era.
She began filing lawsuits against Meta, against Google, against OpenAI, against...
The companies responded with the expected defense. They were training on publicly available information. But legality and morality are not the same. They were using your data to train systems that could predict you, manipulate you, and eventually impersonate you. This meant that the violation of scraping wasn't just about privacy, it was about the creation of a technological double, a ghost version of you that existed inside corporate machines.
A woman in Ohio received a message from her daughter's phone number. She was about to do it. when she realized her daughter was sitting next to her. The daughter on the phone was a synthetic voice. Someone had used publicly available audio samples of her daughter's voice and a photo to create a convincing impersonation.
In Washington, the power struggle was intensifying. Privacy advocates pushed for legislation requiring explicit consent before data could be used to train artificial intelligence systems. One possibility is that the legal system catches up. New regulations require companies to obtain explicit consent. Americans gain the right to know when their data is being used.
Another possibility is that the practice becomes normalized.
A market emerges for AI systems trained on data that was clearly and ethically sourced. But perhaps the most likely scenario is messier: a patchwork of regulations in different states and countries, a gradual shift in public awareness, and a slow evolution of corporate practice. Return, for a moment, to the original question. If someone else owns the data that makes up who you are, do you own yourself? The answer, at this moment in 2026, is no. Not entirely. A significant portion of your digital self, your face, your voice, your words, your thoughts, your location, your beliefs, your medical information, exists as property of technology companies. The technology companies are betting that we'll forget about this. That the convenience of connection will outweigh our desire for privacy.
But somewhere in the data centers where your ghosts already exist, trained into systems you never approved, that question lingers.
Who owns you? And more importantly, when will you demand the answer? If this documentary made you look at your digital life differently, don't just scroll past it. Think about it. Look at the apps you use. Look at the information you've shared. Look at the permissions you've accepted. And ask yourself what happens to that information after you stop thinking about it. If you want to keep exploring the hidden consequences of the technology shaping our world, subscribe to Static Horizon Techs.